6,000 men, crucified, lined along 200 miles of Roman road. Every traveler entering Rome was forced to look at them. That was the point. Rome wanted the world to know what happened to those who dared challenge the most powerful empire on earth. But 2 years earlier, that empire had been brought to its knees by a gladiator, a group of escaped slaves, and one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in ancient history. This is the story of Spartacus, and of the world he shook to its foundations. By the 1st century BC, Rome's economy ran on slavery, entirely. 1 in every 3 people in Italy was a slave. Across the entire empire, 1 in 5. They built the roads, farmed the land, worked the mines, and entertained the crowds. Slaves had no rights, no family, no future. They were property to be bought, sold, worked to death, or thrown into an arena to fight for the entertainment of thousands. The gladiatorial schools, the ludi, were among the most brutal places in the Roman world. Men were trained to kill and to die for the pleasure of a crowd. Spartacus was born in Thrace, a wild, mountainous region in what is now Bulgaria and Greece. He had once served in the Roman army, then deserted, was captured, and sold into slavery. He was sent to the gladiatorial school at Capua, one of the most famous in the empire. He trained as a murmillo, a heavily armed fighter with a large shield and broad sword. In 73 BC, Spartacus had seen enough. He began organizing a plan, not just an escape, a rebellion. With approximately 70 fellow gladiators, armed with nothing but kitchen knives and cooking spits seized from the school's kitchen, Spartacus broke free. They fled to the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, and there on the mountain, something unexpected happened. Slaves from across the surrounding countryside came to them. Word spread fast. Within weeks, what had begun as 70 men became thousands, then tens of thousands. Rome was not alarmed. Not yet. The Senate sent a small force under Praetor Gaius Claudius Glaber to deal with what they saw as a minor disturbance. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Spartacus used vines to descend the cliffs of Vesuvius at night, outflanked the Romans, and destroyed them completely. The rebels seized their weapons and armor. Rome sent a second force. Larger this time, Spartacus defeated them too, and with each victory his army grew. By the end of 73 BC, he commanded an estimated 70,000 fighters. The rebels swept through southern Italy. They raided towns, freed slaves, and accumulated supplies. Rome's heartland was under attack, and the Senate was beginning to panic. In Rome, fear spread through the city. The Senate debated frantically. How had 70 escaped gladiators become an army capable of defeating Roman legions? In 72 BC, Spartacus made a bold decision. He would march north to the Alps and lead his army out of Italy entirely. Freedom lay beyond those mountains. 2 Roman consuls with full legions were sent to stop him. He defeated them both one after the other and continued his march north. Then, at the foot of the Alps, something went wrong. The Gallic and Germanic fighters in his army refused to leave Italy. They wanted to keep fighting, to keep plundering. Spartacus was outvoted. His co-commander Crassus broke away with 30,000 men. It was a fatal division. The Romans caught Crassus separately and annihilated his force. Spartacus honored the dead. He organized funeral games for Crassus, forcing Roman prisoners to fight each other as gladiators. A bitter reversal of roles. Rome was now truly frightened. The Senate turned to its wealthiest and most ambitious citizen, Marcus Licinius Crassus. He funded 8 new legions from his own fortune and took personal command. When one of his units retreated from battle in panic, Crassus revived a brutal ancient punishment, decimation. 1 soldier in every 10 was selected by lot and beaten to death by his own comrades. Discipline was restored through terror. Spartacus now moved south again, towards the toe of Italy. His plan: hire pirates to transport his army across the sea to Sicily, where he could rebuild and fight on. But the Cilician pirates took his money and sailed away. Spartacus had been betrayed. Crassus saw his chance. He built a wall 35 miles long, sealing Spartacus and his army in the toe of Italy. No food could get in. No army could get out. Winter came. The rebels were trapped, starving, and cut off from supplies. Spartacus launched 3 desperate attempts to break through the wall. The first 2 failed. On the 3rd attempt, using their own dead bodies and earth to fill the trench, they broke through. But the army that emerged was a shadow of what it had been. And now, more bad news. Pompey the Great, Rome's most celebrated general, was returning from Spain with his legions. The Senate ordered him south. The trap was closing. Inside the rebel camp, the army began to fall apart. Gallic and Germanic groups broke away to fight on their own and were quickly destroyed by Crassus. Spartacus knew it was over, but he refused to run. He turned his army directly toward Crassus, choosing to die fighting rather than surrender. The Battle of the Scylla River in 71 BC was the final confrontation. Spartacus fought his way through the chaos toward Crassus himself, trying to kill the Roman commander before the end. He never reached him. Wounded by 2 spears, Spartacus went down fighting. His body was never found. The Romans searched the battlefield. They never found his body. Spartacus had vanished, as if the earth itself had swallowed him. 6,000 surviving rebels were captured. Crassus had every single one of them crucified, lining the Appian Way from Capua to Rome, a warning that stretched 200 miles. Crassus and Pompey returned to Rome as heroes. The rebellion was over. Slavery continued. And officially nothing had changed. But beneath the surface, everything had shifted. Rome's ruling class had been shaken to its core. The revolt exposed a truth they had never wanted to face. Their entire civilization rested on the labor of people who hated them, and those people, given a leader, could fight. The economic damage was severe. Southern Italy was devastated. Farms had been abandoned or destroyed. A temporary slave shortage forced landowners to rethink their dependence on slave labor, pushing some toward an early form of tenant farming. Politically, the revolt transformed Rome. Crassus used his military glory to forge an alliance with Julius Caesar and Pompey, forming the first triumvirate. The power struggle that followed would eventually end the Republic itself. The chain of events set in motion by Spartacus's rebellion helped crack the foundations of the Roman Republic, the very system that had enslaved him. Over the following decades, Roman law began slowly, partially, to recognize that slaves had some basic protections. Masters who killed slaves without cause could face consequences. It was not freedom, but it was a shift. Even Rome's own historians could not hide their respect. Plutarch wrote that Spartacus was a man of great intelligence, ambition, and courage, comparing him favorably to the Roman generals he had defeated. In death, Spartacus became something Rome never intended. A symbol of resistance, of dignity, of the idea that no empire, however powerful, is invincible. Centuries later, his name would inspire revolutionaries across the world. The French Revolution, the Haitian slave revolt, labor movements in the 19th century. Rosa Luxemburg named her revolutionary group the Spartacists. The story of Spartacus is not just ancient history. It asks questions that still have no comfortable answers. When is resistance justified? What does it cost to build a civilization on the backs of those who have no choice? And what happens when those people decide they have nothing left to lose? Rome answered those questions with crucifixion and silence. History answered them differently. Spartacus lost the war, but he won something Rome could never take back. The knowledge that even the mightiest empire on earth could be made to fear its own slaves. If you made it this far, leave a comment. Do you think Spartacus had a chance of winning? And what would history look like if he had? In the next video, we explore the collapse of the Roman Empire itself and the economic forces that tore it apart from within. See you there.